and doing Summer's charts. So, thank you, Brooke. I just got your text message. Thank you, sweetheart. Um, anyway, like, after doing the charts last night, I'm curious, what do you guys feel about it? Am I actually live? Hey, Melissa. Hi, sweetie. Can you guys see me, or are we just recording the ceiling again as per usual? Yeah, I think we're recording the ceiling as per usual, which is what I always end up doing. Hey, Melissa. Okay, good. Sorry, I know everybody's working. Hey, Trelly B. What do you guys feel about these charts that we did last night? I'm very torn about it. Because, like, I mean, I know astrology's hard, and I'm actually struggling with it too, you guys. Like, it is crazy hard. Okay? Sorry, I'm still just trying to wake up. And, you know, like, why I peeled back the layers of time was because I wanted to look at, you know, how astrologers say that the viability of a chart, okay? That there's a sweet spot on the AC line for the victim. So, you know how we were pulling up, sorry, I'm just still kind of waking up. And this is really on my mind because I want to put the right information out. Like, I know, like, this is not supposed to be taken as fact. We're supposed to be, you know, that this is for entertainment purposes only. You know, we're not supposed to use this information to cause harm to anyone, persecute anyone. But it is interesting that, you know, for thousands of years, these planets have always meant the same thing. And they do add up. I mean, look at the Brian Kohlberger chart. Look at the Oklahoma shooting where we have all those victims. The astrology matches up for all of them. So I don't understand, you know, shouldn't the astrology also match up for Summer as well? Although Summer's chart is really confusing because I feel like Summer's chart gives us I could probably narrow down 2 or 3 possible scenarios of how this child passed or how this child was taken or when this tragedy unfolds. And it looks like, you know, if I'm reading this correctly, which maybe I'm not reading it correctly, maybe you guys can help me understand if I'm not reading this correctly, you know. And if I'm reading this correctly, it should say that the degree is less than 5 degrees or greater than 25. It's generally considered to be a useless chart. In my experience, that is just not always the case. Sometimes the degree of the first house cusp directly relates to the birth chart of the victim. So, what was Summer? I have not been able to narrow down a city and state for Summer, okay? Like, even Kirst McIntosh, we're going to go over all these books again because these are the books that I use, okay? Because there really isn't a lot of information online about criminal astrology. It's a taboo subject because a lot of astrologers don't like to talk about how the stars can tell you how you die, okay? It's extremely taboo, and I know I'm shaking because I'm just waking up. Give me a second. But, you know, it's not a popular... I'm sorry. It's really not a popular subject. That's what I'm trying to say. This isn't a popular subject because people don't like to talk about how they might be murdered, okay? It's just not popular. So it's not like you can go online and, you know, there's plenty of astrology information that you could go online and you know, find out about your natal chart. When we do these crime charts, they are not a natal chart. And, you know, being a Sagittarius rising or an Aries rising, it doesn't mean the same thing, because we're looking inside the minds of a victim and we're allowing the planets to describe the situation to the victim, okay? And we're allowing the planets to describe the mindset and what our killer might look like, where these injuries are going to take place. So a natal chart is extremely different than a criminal crime chart. It's night and day. You have to look at them completely different. And honestly, like now when I actually look at a natal chart, I'm freaking backwards. Like I'm having a hard time even doing, when somebody asks me to do a natal chart for them, I'm actually struggling because my brain has been programmed to look at everything in this negative, killer, tragic play out of somebody's death, right? Like I don't see all the rainbows and butterflies of astrology anymore. Even when I'm looking at a natal chart, I catch myself focusing on that first house, focusing on the 7th house, focusing on the 8th house of death. I'm focusing on the 12th house. I want to see how how you're brought into this world, how God gives you your first breath, and then God maps out your last breath too. And I'm struggling with that. Like when I'm trying to help people with their natal charts, I'm always pulled back to looking at these charts in a criminal aspect. And it's really crazy. I don't know how that's happening, but it is. So, and I wish it wasn't. But again, here's her book, Kirst McIntosh, and here's the other book that I read all the time. Okay? And sorry. Everything's a mess. I'm just a complete mess today, guys. Just bear with me. She tells us that when we are trying to, what we need for our victim's birthday, this is all the information that we need. We need to look at somebody's natal chart to figure out how they're going to die. We need to look at this stuff here. So for the event chart, because an event chart isn't a natal chart, we need the exact time of the event. We need the date of the event. We need the exact location of the event, the town, the suburbs, the state, and the country. All relevant details. For a 911 call, it's kind of the same thing, right? Everything that we need. So, like, all these are important on a crime chart. What I need. A 911 call, it's the same thing, right? There's certain things that we have to look for. And honestly, I can't narrow down a time for Summer. I can't get the time of her birth, and I can't get the city and state that she was born in. Like I could do a natal chart for Summer that said, that I can push it to noon, but that's not going to help me. I really need the city and state that she's born in. I've had many people come in and tell me she's born in Utah. Then I've had people tell me that she is born in Rogersville, Tennessee. Then people tell me that that's impossible because there's not a hospital that she would be born in Rogersville, Tennessee, right? So for Summer, she had turned into Mars. So when the 911 call is made, Summer is Mars, Scorpio, and she's also the moon. And Candace is also the moon too. Okay? But at 2:20, Summer is Venus because she's ruled by Libra. And then our killer or the accident, which it's a possibility that she had an accident around 2:20. Where were they at 2:20? What time did they actually get home, guys? Does anybody know? Can somebody leave me a comment and tell me what time did Summer actually get home? Hi, Miss Juniper. Just want to put this out for Layla Santinello. She's missing from Kingsport, Tennessee, close to where Summer Wells is home. Michelle After Dark has maps and last sighting. No shoes, thanks much. Oh no, another missing person. Hi, Sunshine. Hey, Carla. Hey, Brooke. Let's see. Does anybody know when? Do you believe they got back at 1:30? So when we broke apart those charts last night, does anybody feel like those charts resonate with them? Like, doesn't 2:20 seem too early for her to go missing? But it's possible. So how? So what Kirst McIntosh's book says, let's just read this, because I'm really trying to figure this out, guys. And her chart is very difficult, because I do feel like there's like one or two, possibly three scenarios of what could have happened to her. It could have been an accident. It could have been like blunt force trauma to her head somehow, to her head, face, and neck. So she says, if Mars is found in the 7th house, I feel like I need to email Kirst McIntosh, but I feel like I'm going to be like a stalker. I feel like I'm her stalker, because I'm always like plugging her book, and like, you know, she is the mother of astrology to me. Like, I wouldn't even know how to look at these planets like this if it wasn't for her. And I watched her for years under my other name. So Junie is my nickname, guys. I was always called Jumping Juniper as a kid because we had juniper berries in our backyard, and I was always like trying to make wine, and I was like out there thinking I was like smushing berries and stuff, and my mom used to get mad because that stuff stained, you know, those red berries. But that's not my real name, and I'm not sure if I want to put my real information out, because I mean, I have a past too, and my past isn't beautiful. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I know that you know, the true crime community for YouTube can be absolutely toxic as fuck. And I don't know if I want, you know, because we're not perfect. My husband and I have been married for 24 years. My husband has brain damage. I have issues with a brain tumor and a broken back. So, you know, we're not perfect. My husband had viral encephalitis when I was 9 months pregnant with our son, and he didn't even know who the hell I was. Like, my husband woke up literally one day and was like, "Who are you? Get out of my house." And I'm 9 months pregnant, and I'm literally like, "I'm your wife. I'm giving birth to your son." And this man had no idea who I was. Viral encephalitis is horrible, okay? Because they have a personality change, they can become violent, and there's all this stuff, and we have a history too. You know, we don't look good on paper. We look absolutely dysfunctional on paper. But I chose to stay with my husband because I love him. And you know, he's got brain damage and addiction issues. And when you have brain damage with addiction issues, it's really difficult. And I'm starting to cry, and I don't want to cry. But, you know, I don't want everyone to know who I am, because it's just, I don't know, it's not good. Our past is not pretty. You know, we're not this perfect family. And I don't want to pretend to be, because we're not perfect. We're really dysfunctional. Like, we're really, really dysfunctional. Yeah, plus, and people are just crazy, and the people that have contacted me, sometimes they're really mean, especially when they find out I'm a witch. They say horrible things to me. Like wanting to burn me on the White House lawn. As soon as somebody gets back in power, all the witches will be burned at the stake on the White House lawn. Like, I've had people say some really dark, twisted shit to me, and I don't want to put all my information out there. And I don't want to judge other channels. I want to be supportive in the true crime community because I truly do love everybody, but there are just some channels that are toxic. And it's scary because these are people that are not mentally stable, and they come after you and they come after your family. And our family isn't strong. Like, we already don't look good enough as it is. So, I don't know. One day I'll show you guys my natal chart and explain why I'm not showing my natal chart is because you'll see it. I'm sorry. I know it's not funny, but you'll see it. Like, I can't not hide it because it shows up on my natal chart, like long-term abuse for many, many, many years. And there's a reason that there's abuse showing because my husband's got brain damage and it makes him violent. And he's also an alcoholic and a drug addict. So, it's been really, really hard. He's sober now, but I don't know how long that's going to last. So it gets crazy. Anyway, let's get back to summer because the whole reason why I want to do this is for summer. I'm so torn about the charts pinpointing a time to when something happened, when a tragedy happened to summer is between 2:20 and like 4 o'clock, I'd say. Like, there's just these vital moments on that chart that tells us that her chart is vital. If I'm reading this right, I mean, maybe I'm not reading it right. Maybe you guys can help me because I do struggle, with reading and everything. But, I mean, doesn't this sound like 5 degrees or less, it's getting ready to happen to the victim. It hasn't happened yet. And then 25 degrees or more, it hasn't happened yet. So when we're in between 5 and 25, it's already happened, right? We're too late. That's how I'm reading this. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. I don't know. Let me read this again. There are various methods that astrologers use to determine the viability of a chart. One of the favorite methods is to check the degree on the rising sign or the first house cusp. So yes, like, again, I feel like I'm a stalker to Kirst McIntosh because I'm always talking about her, but I love her. Like, I truly do love her channel, and I hope to be somewhat as knowledgeable as her, but I don't think I ever will be as knowledgeable as her. Like, Kirst McIntosh knows how to get the books, those books that just tell you the mathematical locations of the planets. She can pull those books up and actually calculate the position of the planets without a computer. Like, that's how good she is at what she does, okay? Like, she has that book that has the mathematical locations of each planet, and she can make those the natal charts that we do and the event charts that we do, that big circle. She knows how to calculate all that stuff. I don't know how to do that. That's really hard, okay? Like, she knows this stuff. And sometimes I just wish I could just pick up the phone and call her because I have a lot of questions and I'm very confused. So if this is saying, methods is to check the degree on the rising sign in the first house cusp, and this degree is less than 5 degrees or greater, you can generally consider to be a useless chart. In my experience, this is just not always the case. Sometimes the degree on the first house cusp directly relates to the birth chart of the victim. So at 6 o'clock, summer is at 26 degrees. And that's when the 911 call is happening, so that's a viable chart. It's documented at like between 6 and 6:30. those are viable charts because it's documenting that that she's calling out to the police. So that means that's viable, and that does add up. At 2:30, it's saying that the event has already happened. At 2:20, she's still, it hasn't happened yet. So between 2:20 and 2:30, something happens to that child. And then at 4 o'clock, we go to 25 degrees. So it's just happening to this child, right? So maybe I'm going to have to pull up the charts again. And hey, Kimberly. Hi, is that Nail? McKenna, hello. Niall? Niall. So, is Niall okay? Let's be... Hi, Robin. Okay, yeah, please don't spam the chat, because Brooke will get you. Brooke doesn't play, okay? She's a Sagittarius. Don't mess with her. She's connected to Jupiter, okay? Don't mess with her. She will mess you up. Okay, just let's everyone get along. Let's all be fair and nice. So, is this saying that... This is saying that... Hold on. Let's just keep reading because I'm getting myself mixed up. Sometimes the degree on the first house cusp directly relates to the birth chart of the victim, which is true. I've seen that match up. Okay, and Kirst McIntosh just did a whole thing on Rex Huberman, and you can, oh my God, it's so crazy, you guys. You should check out her video that she just recently did on Rex Huberman, because on the AC line of all the victims, it all matches Rex's birthday. Ooh, it's so creepy, right? See, I don't know how to do multiple victims. I am completely lost when we start to do multiple victims. But she's able to figure out that all of these people were probably killed by the same killer because the AC line, which is the victim line, all matches his astrology sign. That can't be a coincidence. And that these people were killed months apart, years apart, and they all match up to the same AC line. Meaning that they're all killed by the same person. And there's a couple of them that are like that. So she's going to be doing Rex Huberman, and that is a huge chart. Like, that's going to be crazy. So, so you have February 4th, 2016, Tennessee. Okay, that's not helping me because I need to know the city that she's born in, guys. Thank you so much, Kimberly. But we need to know the city. And I'm sketched out by putting it as Tennessee because so many people tell me that she was born in Utah, and that's why she has the middle name Utah. Why is her middle name Utah? Because Don and Candace loved Utah? So in order for us to get her exact natal chart, it would be, I mean, of course we're not always going to have their time of birth, but it would be great if we could at least get the proper city that she's born in. Because when you pull up a natal chart, you need the time of birth, the city and state that you're born in, okay? I don't need her name or anything like that. I need the time that she's born, the city and state that she's born in, and the date. That's what's most important. Because then at least I can check the 8th and 12th house for her, and I could tell you what the stars have determined how she's going to die, you know? And it'd be interesting to see if water shows up for how summer is supposed to pass. Because there is a lot of water, there's a lot of Aquarius and Neptune energy surrounding summer. Aquarius represents fresh water, and Neptune represents drugs and drowning, lies and delusions, and another person might be aware of it, or that there's another person involved directly or indirectly, or someone knows about it. So Neptune shows up with summer throughout the whole day, including Aquarius for where her DNA is. And Aquarius rules tree lines, ditches. You know, like if you're walking in the woods and you ever come to an opening where like the trees just stop growing, maybe there's a path, and off to the side of the tree line you might find like you know, like there's an opening, or like where there's a crack in the woods, like if there's a creek or a stream. Think about it, like if you're walking through the woods and you come to a stream, if you notice the trees open up a bit when they hit that stream. So Aquarius rules that kind of an area. Who else had that? There's a lot of children on these crime charts that we've done in the past that show up. Chiron Harmon showed up in Aquarius. And I'm thinking that it's because he's like where the woods break. You know, maybe off a beaten path, or like if there's a stream, you'll see where the tree line breaks before it hits the stream. Does that make sense? And then like if you look up, it's open because there's no trees growing out of the water. You know, it's like Aquarius is letting us know that it's like a break. There's like a break in the, why can't I talk? Aquarius is letting us know that there's a break in the, you know, in the tree line, and that a body could be dumped right where the trees break. Or, you know, when we did the chart for the escaped convict, he showed up in Aquarius. And later on, he admitted that he was hanging out in ditches and like hanging out in the tree lines. And that's Aquarius. Tree lines, creeks, rivers, small running streams. It could be a trickle of spring water. It could be right where the tree line breaks. It could be railroad tracks, because Aquarius rules electricity, guys. So there could be like a source of electricity nearby where this body is, or Aquarius is just letting us know that it's a break in, you know, when it's a break in the woods. So it's opened up to the air. Aquarius can be near airports, you know, on the tree line of where an airport might be in the vicinity of that area. It could be waterfalls, dams, because a dam can sometimes generate electricity. So Aquarius rules all man-made structures, like dams, quarries, if there's electricity nearby. A place where they mine, you know, where they've done mining. That's Aquarius. Man-made fountains, beautifully landscaped areas are just moggy, boggy, freshwater, disgusting areas that sewage is dumped in, or that the sewer line is connected to it. She could be in a sewer. She could be in a septic tank. That's all Aquarius, because Aquarius rules, it's an air sign, but it rules, it's the water bearer. So it rules fresh water areas that are man-made structures. Like when we did the chart for the boy, Grant Solomon, with his dad that was a TV host. His DNA, I mean, we have proof of it because we know where the truck hit him, okay? Grant Solomon was found in between Capricorn and Aquarius on a cusp. That's where the planets told us that his DNA was going to be found. And if you look at that ditch, Capricorn lets us know that it's going to be rocky and low to the ground. It can be high up too, but that it's rocks. That his DNA was going to be found on a rocky area with Aquarius attached to it means that it's a ditch that a water runoff runs through it. And I'm not sure if there's a drain in that ditch that Grant Solomon was found in, but if you remember when the tow truck comes and they back out that white truck, he's in a ditch, okay? So Summer could easily be in a ditch too. A ditch that's got rocks in it, a ditch that has trash or sewage. It could be a man-made ditch or a natural-made ditch. It could be a dell. Aquarius, it really gets into a lot of detail. It could be a well, it could be a dell, like Dell, or a well, Well. It could be a hole in the ground that's got fresh water in it, like a sinkhole. That would be Aquarius. That might have water in it, you know, something like that. So she says, my favorite method is to see if something, this is where I'm at, reading here. My favorite method is to see if something in the chart correlates to the facts. For instance, if the report from witnesses have the victim at the church just before she or he disappeared, and the chart shows the presence of a church, which would be Jupiter, so because Jupiter rules churches, schools, colleges. It can, if Jupiter is next, if Jupiter is in the 7th house next to our killer, it's going to provide us a little clue to what our killer does, okay? Jupiter's not always normally a person. It just describes a characteristic about our killer. If it shows up in the victim line, it's going to tell us that our victim is near a church, or our victim is near a college, or, you know, a church can be a school and a religious place, because if they have Bible study there, or if they have Sunday school, then that means it's a church and a school. I hope that makes sense. Okay, we're going to keep reading here. If the reports from the witnesses have the victim at a church just before she or he disappears, I'm right here now, and the chart shows the presence of a church, a preacher, or other religions for reference, you can pretty much say that the chart is viable. This method is not a cut and dry method, basically. So she's saying, like, what she's telling us to do is to remember, if there is an eyewitness account saying that our victim was last seen near a church, and then you pull up the AC line, which is the 1st house, and Jupiter shows up in the 1st house, then that matches up with our victim, okay? So they're reminding us to take, you know, oops, sorry, I dropped you guys. Oops, sorry. Why is it telling me to do that? I'm sorry, that must have made you guys so dizzy. I don't know what just happened, I'm sorry. Thanks, Kimberly, I appreciate that. I do, I need to go get a drink. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back, okay, guys? I'm gonna put you on this little cell phone holder thingy. Yeah, we're not perfect. Hey, Vaccine, it's good to see you, honey. We're really messed up as a family. But the one thing that we've never lacked is love. And this family has been through hell and back, like I'm telling you. And I've taken in a lot of kids when, you know, all this stuff was happening with my husband being sick. And, you know, viral encephalitis, it gives memory loss, and like they can get very agitated easily, and you know, yeah, there's been abuse, but you know, I have forgiven him because he is sick. It's not like you know, a typical domestic violence stuff, and the drinking doesn't help, and it's been years of this, and that's one of the reasons why, like, my daughter wants to stay with her brother, and I don't blame her. But, you know, that's not fair to my son either. But we send her to my son's house every weekend because we live in the city now, and it's not a safe area here, and there's really not much for her to do. I'm going to go get a bottle of water. I'll be right back, guys. Yeah, that's what my husband had, and he had it in the frontal lobe, viral encephalitis. So, like, your frontal lobe is basically where your soul is, in a way. It's kind of where your memories are stored. Like, my husband does not remember his childhood. Like, we'll run into people all the time from his childhood, and they'll be like, hey, it's so good to see you. What's up? Where you been, bro? And then we'll, like, walk away, and he'll be like, I have no idea who that guy is. He has no memory of his childhood. Little things come back every year, and his brain does get stronger because the brain is amazing. It can heal itself. Like, and my husband had 2 strokes when he was in the hospital. When I was pregnant with our son, my husband was admitted to the hospital, and they wheeled him up in a wheelchair, and I was giving birth to my son, and literally my husband was like, because he thought I was his nurse. He thought I worked at the hospital. He didn't even know I was his wife. And he thought, like, oh, they're wheeling me up to visit my nurse that's giving birth to a kid. Like, little did he know it was me. I was his wife giving birth to his son. But, he's just staring at my vagina for 12 hours, thinking that I was his nurse. Like, he didn't understand. He was like, why did they bring me in here? He kept asking to go back to his room. Because they literally put the wheelchair, like, right at my feet. Because he had, like, a PICC line and all that stuff in from viral encephalitis. And they wheeled him in, and they literally put him at my feet, like, where he had just, like, top-notch view of my vagina. And so he thought all this time that he didn't realize I was his wife, his pregnant wife. He just thought, like, I was his nurse, his caregiver in the hospital. So he was all like, why did they wheel me in here to look at this woman's vagina for 12 hours? And poor man. Okay, I'm going to go get some water. Hold on. So yeah, I mean, we look pretty damn dysfunctional. It's not been easy. He's looking at he's wheeled in on a wheelchair, and they had him strapped in because, when you have a PICC line in your heart, I mean, a PICC line is a wire that pumps encyclovir through your heart. So what a PICC line does is, if you're really sick and they need to get an antibiotic through your whole body really fast to fight the spread of more brain damage, they put this PICC line in him, and so he couldn't, like, really move around much. Like, you can move around, but they just want you to be extra careful. So they had him kind of, like, strapped into the wheelchair just to stare at my vagina the whole time. and he had no idea who I was. So funny. I mean, we look back on it now and we laugh our asses off, but yeah, it's pretty funny. The day that I left the hospital, my husband was discharged the same week, and I literally went home with 2 babies that day. I gave birth to our son, but I also was sent home with a completely different stranger that was more adolescent. He had to learn who everybody was again. It was really hard. No, he didn't. I mean, he has some memories of, like, we would tell him, like, he got to hold our son and everything, and we're like, this is your son. But it was very confusing to him because it was just us telling him that this is your son. He had no memory of getting me pregnant. He had no memory of the baby shower and all the planning that we did. He wanted to name our son. He wanted to name our son Nestle Quick. That's how much brain damage he had. So, like, when we were in the hospital and, like, they came, how they are with the baby names. They're like, we need the baby name right now. And he's like, I want to name him Nestle Quick. I'm like the chocolate milk. He's like, yeah. So people think that he's quick and he'll be really fast on the football team. So, like, and then I ended up naming our son Brennan, but he wanted to name him Nestle Quick. Like, I can seriously look back on it and laugh. But it's really funny. It's so messed up. Okay, so that's why I chose to do a nickname and not really put all my personal information out there, because it's really hard. It's really confusing, and it's a lot of explaining to do, especially if someone, like, looks me up. They're going to see that my husband and I have had it. And don't get me wrong, I hit him back one time too, because it was difficult dealing with someone that had anger issues, and it was like pushing you around because you couldn't reason with them, and they were drunk. Okay, like, my husband it would be like trying to talk to a rock. I mean, no offense, but some men can be very stubborn. But when you have a man that's agitated because he's got brain damage and he's sick, and then you have a man that is violent because he's drunk, and you can't reason with them because there is no reasoning with them, and they're drunk, it's difficult. And he would walk down to the liquor store because they didn't give him his license for like 4 years because he wasn't safe to drive. Because he would like get in the car and then he could remember to drive, but he didn't remember how to get home. It was very difficult. It was horrible times in our life. And I had a newborn baby. That's another reason why my kids are like 10 years apart, because we did wait. No, he's not military. I think he got bit by a tick because he had a huge bullseye on his chest, and I think he got encephalitis from a tick bite. That's what I think. They said it's carried by female mosquitoes too, so you can get bit by a female mosquito and literally lose your brain and lose your memories. Like, that's basically what happened to him. It happened so fast because like the night before he did throw up, and he was like, he had a rash on his neck, so that was when the infection was starting to affect his meninges, like the first layer of your brain. That's why they call meningitis, because it infects the meninges, which is those weird like squiggly lines on top of the brain. But when it gets to encephalitis, that's going inside the brain, inside your brain. And it's an infection that causes swelling. And he was dying. My husband was dying. Like, he was like, I don't know who you are, but Anne really likes you. He was like talking to some dead lady named Anne. And then I went back out because they weren't letting a lot of people in the emergency room. So his mother and I had to take turns. And I was like, what? I'm like 9 months pregnant. I'm like, who the hell is Anne? I was like pissed off because I'm like, are you cheating on me with somebody by the name of Anne? Like, who's Anne? What do you mean she's coming? And this is before I was spiritual or knew anything really about spirits. Like, I knew stuff, but not like I do now. But my first experience was that his Anne really likes me. She loves me, and she's coming to get him. That's what he said to me. Anne is coming to get me, and you're going to like her when she gets here, and she really does love you. She said that she loves you, or something like that. And I was like, who the fuck is Anne? Like, I'm going to go beat this bitch's ass. Like, where is she, right? And then I went out and told his mom, and she's like, Anne is my mother, and she's been dead for 30 years. Like, no, she's not coming to get my son. And that's when, like, his mom, like, stood up and freaked out and was like, you need to take him more seriously. And then we had the 2 spinal taps. We had to get 2 spinal taps because the first one was inconclusive. And then they did the second spinal tap, and they were like, oh, yeah, he's got encephalitis. He's, like, really messed up. So, yeah. We've been through hell and back. All right, so that's why I did what I did with these charts, okay? And I was trying to go back we went from 6 o'clock, we looked at the chart at 6 o'clock, and I looked at the AC line, and it was telling us that the event had already happened. I went back to 5 o'clock. It was telling us that the event had already happened. I went back to 4 o'clock on the AC line, the victim line, okay? Rules the victim. And it was telling us that we were too late. By the degree, it's telling us that we were too late, that the event has already happened, okay? As far as this book is concerned, it's telling us that the event has already happened. Then we went back to 3, and that's when it gets honestly, 4 is at 25. 3 is a little weird, but 220 is like, I believe, when Summer truly got gone. Now, I don't know if that's when she's killed or she's kidnapped or there's an accident, because at 220, she's connected to Uranus, which is a tragedy, and that her life is never going to be the same again, and that, everyone connected to Uranus, that's a tragic event. And that goes down to Saturn, which is her body. So, and what else I should do is one day, I need to get a laptop, because it's really hard for me to do it on my phone. And it's just really hard to see it. What I should do is go after 6 o'clock. I should do 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock and see what the chart says. I should do 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock and figure out if I can actually find when her little Mars, because after 4, she switches signs. Because earlier in the day, she's ruled by Venus, which is telling us that she's a blonde little girl, because Venus rules all women. So earlier in the day, she's ruled by Venus, but after 5, she's ruled by Scorpio. Something changes in her chart after 5. So and Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So I should go from 6 to 7 and see when Mars falls into the house of death. From 7 to 8 and see if that takes me to the house of death. From 8 to 9 and see if that takes me to the house of death. From 9 to 10, does that take me to the house of death? When does Mars land in the house of death? And that's going to be like what I did last night, trying to find out when she was actually taken, or when she actually had this tragedy attached to her, was at between 2:20 and 2:30. And there is something weird at 4 o'clock too, because it's when the chart turns to 25 degrees. So at 2:20, she's at 7 degrees. Or I mean, at 2:30, she's at 7 degrees. At 2:20, she's at 1 degrees. So between 2:20 and 2:30, something happens to her. That's the sweet spot. And I need to find out, why is that the sweet spot? Is that when she actually got gone? When summer got gone, I believe is between 2:20 and 2:30. But something else happens to her at between 3 and 4, because the degree sits at 25. And it tells us if it's 25 or greater, that it hasn't happened yet. So it's very confusing. So for the record, I just want to say between 2:20 and 4, I believe it's when summer is attached to this tragedy. It's quick, it's fast, and between 2:20 and 4, she's connected. The killer shows up in Aries, which is rage and anger. So I know it's confusing, but somehow we got to figure it out. Somehow we got to figure it out. That's all. We need to figure it out. Now, you guys, does 2:20 sound like it could be a viable time? Because, like I said, here on this chart, look, I mean, it's telling us if it's 5 degrees or less, then that's a viable chart, right? Am I looking at that right? Am I reading it right? So 2:20, is that too early for something to happen to summer? Like, they got back from the swimming hole at 1:30. What time does Hunter recall dropping summer off and all that? Like, I don't know the time frames of the case. Does 2:20 sound too early to you guys? Because I think it might. Is 2:20 too early? Hunter's dropped off at 2:10. So, I mean, it's saying like at 2:20, between 2:20 and 4 o'clock, something drastically happens to that child. If we're reading the charts right, and I'm reading these books right, with everything that these books are telling us to read, that means that between 2:20 and 4 o'clock is really the time when summer got gone. So why does it take Candace until 6:30 or 6:20 to call 911? Grandma had the doctor's appointment at 2:30. So then it doesn't match up then, right? She went to the hospital at 2:30. Yeah, for entertainment purposes only, guys. We're just trying to figure out the astrology, okay? And again, Candace is ruled by the moon, and Candace is at a degree of 25 degrees of Leo and 27 degrees of Leo all day. All day, Candace shows up as lying. Between 2 and 6, Candace Wells is lying. Or she's, the 27th degree tells us that Candace is not telling the truth. I mean, if we're looking at this correctly. If we're looking at the fixed star signs correctly, Candace Wells shows up at the 25th degree of Leo, and you can Google it yourself. What does the 25th, or what does the 27th degree of Leo mean in astrology? And it will tell you. She shows up as lying. Candace shows up as lying. But why? That's what I want to know. So if we're just looking at these charts, looking at, this is how you can Google it, guys. Okay, just let it focus. 24th degree, 27th degree of Leo. This is Candace. And it's weird because she even does mention music. Summer's favorite song, and she gives appreciation to somebody's favorite song. It also, a sudden death by poison or drowning, problems with the law, love affairs, drugs, crime, lying, and stealing, soy sauce, sound judgment, cleverness, prone to violence, self-seeking, danger, loss, mutiny. So she is between, earlier in the day, she shows up as anywhere between 26 and 27 degrees. So she is these three stars. All day. Hey, Aggie. I'm just trying to figure out the charts because I feel like 2:20 just seems so early, but the chart is telling us that that's when she's not gone yet, right? At 2 o'clock, she's still with her. She's with them. Everything is fine, but something happens between 2:20 and 4 o'clock with Summer. And I if anybody knows her timeline. So if Grandis was supposed to be at the doctor at 2:20, she would have taken Summer with her. Or she was supposed to be at the doctor's at 2:30, correct? Hey, Chloe. How are you, sweetheart? It's good to see you too, sweetheart. So I'm just trying to... Does 2:20 and 4 seem unreasonable as far as the astrology is saying? That Summer got gone between 2:20 and 4. Does that make sense? Okay, so Hunter was at the doctor's at 2:30. What time were they at the swim hole then? Because this is the degree that Candace is in all day. From 2 to 6, she's here. So the astrology is saying immediately after they dropped off Hunter, that the astrology is saying that that the event, the tragedy didn't happen at 2 o'clock. The astrology is telling us that the tragic event happens after 2:20 and in between 4. Does that sound right to you guys, or does it seem too early? I mean, maybe Candace got angry because at 2:20, Aries shows up on the killer line. Aries is ruled by Aries is ruled by. Oh, my husband just got home. Aries is ruled by Mars. So if we look at the chart again, this is 2:20, right? 2:30. We're at 7 degrees. So if I keep going back to what this book tells us to do, guys, it tells us the sweet spots, 5 degrees, are greater than 25. If it's in between 5 and 25, that we're too late. So we're looking for a sweet spot of less than 5. So we're at 7. So that means it's just about ready to happen. If I go to 2, if I go to 2, if I go to 2, it's at 1 degree. So the tragedy hasn't happened yet. She's being ruled by Libra, which makes her Venus on this chart. Now at 6 o'clock, she's Mars, okay? But at 2 o'clock, she's ruled by Venus. A wound or open enemy shows anger and rage and a wound. And I hate to say it, but could have Grandis have hit her or hurt her or whoever? I'm trying to make it bigger so you guys can see. We have to pay attention to these little dotted lines too. They mean something too. Oh, my husband's out there listening to me on a live, guys. I can hear him. He must be sitting on the front step, on the front porch, and I can hear me talking. So he's like listening to my live. Hi, honey, I love you. I just kind of told everybody a little bit about our dysfunctional family, but that I love you. Hello, honey. Okay, so if we're paying attention to the little green dotted lines, all right, and it's letting us know that our open enemy this summer is anger. Aries is the ram, and he hits with his head, and that's a wound to the head. Aries is ruled by Mars, and look who Mars is pointing at. It's pointing at summer. Oh, I hate this phone. I got to get a laptop. My next time I get paid, we're getting a laptop. I can't. I can't keep doing this with my phone and stuff because it's crazy and it's just not professional. So Kimberly says to Brooke, yes, but what time did JS hear the scream between 4 and 4:30? It's possible too, because on the other charts where you're saying that she was left in the heat or left, hold on. If we go to the 911 call, or let's go to 5. At 5 o'clock, this would be immediately after the scream. Our victim is Scorpio, so she's going to be ruled by Mars. If you look, Mars is hot, okay? Meaning that she's burning up And she's in Leo, which is hot, heat. Leo is ruled by the sun. So either Summer's got a really high fever, and with this line here, I've seen Kirst McIntosh do videos where she says, like, over here is the lies, over here is the truth. Like, sometimes the MC line on these charts can be the difference between a cover-up and a lie. But I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Like, it showed on Chiron's chart with the stepmother lying about where he was. And you can see it because there's an MC line here. So at 5 o'clock, Candace is aware of Summer. Because they're like, this is a huge line on a chart. And it can be the difference between knowing the truth and covering it up. Hold on, I got something sticky on my phone. Sorry. I should have wiped my screen off better for you guys. Don is in the 8th house of death with the siblings. He's with the kids. All right, let's go back. Let's go to 6. What time was the police call? 6:30. So let's do 6:30. All right, so we're at the 26th degree. So that means that it's a viable chart because she's actually calling 911 here. And that's Candace. She's just crossed over the line. Calling about Summer. Don is showing up in the 7th house, which could be an open enemy to Summer. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. Sorry, I can't talk. The 7th house rules our killer. Now, I'm not saying that means Don killed her, but it's just it means that something's suspicious. Doesn't mean that he killed her, but it's just Don is hanging out in the 8th house of death all day, which actually can mean he's making money because the 8th house rules sex, death, and taxes, and your inheritance are trying to make money value as well. So the 8th house is a very important house on these charts. Remember, this isn't a natal chart. So we can't read these planets like if you know how to read natal charts, it's not going to work here because we're reading these charts completely different for a crime. So Candace is the moon, Summer is Mars. I lost my pen. 1 second. It's easier to point with a pen because then I don't, oopsies, I don't lose everything. I don't know. It's really hard, guys. Like, this is hard. So let's see if we can figure out when Summer is actually in the house of death. Because here she's being ruled by Mars. So, hey, honey. Let's do 8 o'clock p.m. Let's look at that chart. So at 8 o'clock p.m., I mean, it could be that that's when Summer actually does take her last breath, or that we know for sure that she is gone, because that's when Mars shows up in the 8th house. But let's look at the chart. She is now in the being ruled by Sagittarius. So that means Jupiter is Summer. She's still showing hot. She's still showing hot. because there's Mars in Leo. That's really hot at 8 p.m. Let's do 7 o'clock, because this was 8. $8:30. Let's do 7:30. See if she's still being ruled. No, see, she's being ruled by something else now. It's really hard to determine these charts, guys. It's not easy. But at 6 o'clock, she is being ruled by Scorpio, which makes her Mars. I mean, and this is like basically when, so law enforcement is involved at this point, and they're looking for her. We have Candace going down to Jupiter, so that's her, you know, being in touch with law enforcement at 7:30. So the law enforcement, I think that's what it's telling us, guys, is that law enforcement is involved with the house of the victim now. So, I mean, as far as the astrology is concerned, it's like something drastically happens between 2:20 and 4 o'clock. Summer is attached to a tragic event that changes that child's life forever, okay? Changes everybody's life forever between 2:20 and 4 o'clock. Let's go look at 4 o'clock map again. I know I'm jumping around, and I know this is really hard to follow. And honestly, it's hard for me too. Like, my brain is jumping around too. It's really hard, guys. But there's answers here. Again, entertainment purposes only. Don't harass anybody in this that we're talking about. I'm using everything for Fair Use Act, all that stuff. But you know, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but there's answers here. There are answers here. At 4:30, she's being ruled by Scorpio, so she's Mars. I feel at 4:30 she's hidden away from Candace, because we have that MC line separating them. Over here's the truth. Candace is lying. Because Candace is at the degree of lying all day. Even here, she's at 26 degrees. Even here at 4:30, she's at 26 degrees. Here's the degree that she's at. They really do. You're right, Chloe Jade. They look very suspicious, or that they know something. And they're both in a trine all day long. Don and Candace are in a trine throughout the whole day, which that trine is considered a yod. It's considered a finger of fate. You can Google what does a yod mean in astrology, but you have to remember you're doing a yod in astrology for a crime chart, not a natal chart. But a yod on a natal chart is just as important. It's a moment that the eye of heaven is involved in your life. So on these charts, you know, this is what the degree Candace is in all day, guys. Sudden death by poisoning or drowning, problems with the law, love affairs, drugs. Now, someone once told me that she's a nurse and that if you have a drug overdose, you heat up. So Summer showing up hot. Summer showing up hot could be a drug overdose. But do you see the yod here? It's a finger of fate. it makes a triangle. And it's with Don and Candace all day. That's Candace. That's Don. Don's the sun. He's that little circle with the circle on the inside. He's the two circles. And that's, if you see the green dotted line, it goes down to Pluto, which could be a business transaction of some sort by the third house. Second house can be business transaction too. Or that they're in the neighborhood, that they're driving around in the neighborhood at 4:30, that they're driving. Candace and Don are driving. So at 4:30 they're driving. Do we have any idea where they drove to at 4:30? Because it has both of them driving. That's right. I don't care. I wish I could do quantum physics. It's hard. Please come in here and you do these charts. So, I mean, that's another thing, Kimberly. Like, if we're looking at this, sudden death by poisoning or drowning, problems with the law, love affair, drugs, crime, lying, and stealing, suicide. Being clever, prone to violence, self-seeking, danger, loss, mutiny. And, you know, that there's what's really sad is at 6 o'clock, I noticed that too, but I'm not going to pull up the other chart that I have of Summer, where she's ruled in her victim line. It shows that she's the daughter of the world. Like the mother of Gaia, the daughter of Gaia. She shows up as, like, after 6 o'clock, that she becomes the daughter of everybody in America. Because this is Western astrology. So after 6 o'clock, the asteroid that's following Summer is that she becomes everybody's daughter. Which is true, because the people that are looking for her and trying to find her, the asteroid shows up after 6 o'clock of being the daughter of Gaia. And it shows up in the first house. There's an asteroid that shows up right next to Scorpio that's ruling Summer, and I forget the name of it, but it's the daughter of Gaia. Gaia is Mother Earth. And the people that are looking for her, the police officers that are involved looking for her, they're looking for her like she was their own daughter. Like the Echo search, all of those people really wanted to find her, and they were searching for her. And America was searching for this child as if she was their own daughter. And that shows up too. It's actually really sad. But I just wanted to tell you guys about that too. That there's an asteroid that shows up after 6 o'clock that goes over Summer's head. That she's the daughter of the world. She's the daughter of Gaia. And that it's like, you know, everybody's concerned about her. The world, she's the world's daughter. It's kind of sad, isn't it? We're about driving that day when we tried to correct it to me, sus. So 4:30, they're driving. Let's go back and look at it, guys. They're both driving. So this is at 6. What did I say? 4 o'clock, they're driving. 4:30. I'm going to have to get off here soon because I need to deal with my husband here in a second because he's got stuff to do, and he wants to watch the news and everything, and I don't want to have the news on in the background because it upsets me. I hate the news. This is with transits. So at 4:30, this is at 5:30. Third house. They're driving at 5:30 too, I think. Let me see, 4:30. That's Candace, the moon. The little circle there is Don, and he could be with the boys, but at 4:30, Pluto is showing up with them driving. The yod that they're connected to is Pluto, which is death. Pluto represents death. And look, there's summer, Mars going down to death. Do you see the red line? So Candace, Dawn, Summer all point to death. Driving around. Candace, Dawn, Summer going down to Pluto. That red line is connected to Summer. Sorry, I just froze. Okay, so look, guys. At 4:30, there's Candace. Okay? There's Dawn. There's Summer. They all connect to Pluto. Death. Do you guys see it? That red line goes up to Summer. That's Summer. Mars is Summer. That little circle with the arrow on it, that's Summer. Candace, Dawn, death. Driving around. So, I mean, this could be that Summer passed away in the car with her mom. At 2:30, there's some type of an attack on Summer. Something quick and something to her head, face, and neck. At 2:30. I don't know. He's driving around, I would say. I mean, he's in the 8th house. He could be still making money, yes. But there's still a line connected to him to Pluto. The 8th house rules Pluto. Pluto rules the 8th house. So he could be making money because remember, it's about your worth, your self-worth, how much money you make. So he could be working, yes. The chart is just, not that they're driving together, they're in 2 separate houses. But each of them are driving. They're not together. They're both in separate vehicles. It's just letting us know that they're in separate vehicles and they're driving. But Don is in the house of death and making money. So it's just this yod just follows them throughout the whole day. The finger of fate, the finger of God, which is that triangle that comes in and points to death. But here at 4:30, Summer is directly connected to Pluto. That red line right there. So is Grandis, because that's Grandis. We follow her line too. Goes down to death. I don't know. It's very, 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 very confusing. It is. It's very confusing. They're in separate vehicles, but they're both like driving around at 4:30. Has anybody reported seeing Candace driving around at 4:30? I think she does know, guys. I think Grandis does know something. So the astrology is definitely pinpointing between 2:20 and 4:30, something happens to this kid. What? We don't know. We really don't. We just know that it was quick and it was tragic. I don't know. We'll go over it more later. I just wanted to share the charts, seeing if anybody can pinpoint, if they can give me the city and state that Summer Wells is born in, or the time. The city and state that she's born in. And it would be great if we could get her time of birth, because it can kind of really hint to how you're going to die. It can give us clues to how you're going to die. So I'm going to go because the phone's going to die. And I still have that other video up, and the phone died, and I wasn't able, I can't even get to it. So lesson learned with that one. But I can't like adjust that video that's out there from last night. So, all right, guys. Something's up. Like, these charts are really hard to do, but something is up. Like, something's up with the parents. Again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. I really hope that Don and Candace aren't involved. I really pray that they're not. But it just... Why did it take them so long to call 911? If the astrology is telling us that something traumatic happened to this child between 2:20 and really 4, I'd say 4. I don't know. Between 2:20 and 4:30, something drastic happened to Summer. We just don't know what. So if it happened at between 2:20 and 4:30, then why did it take him so long to call at 6:30 to tell us that Summer's missing? Like, I don't get that. Why not tell us? Why not call earlier when it first happened? And, you know, Neptune is here at 4:32, so they're partying, you guys. The 5th house rules partying, doing drugs, and drinking on the 5th house. It doesn't make sense. Something's up. So you guys think between 2:20 and 4:30 is a prime spot too? Like, the astrology does add up to you guys? How Summer, Dawn, and Candace at 4:30 all go down to Pluto. If you follow the lines, they all go down to Pluto. Candace, Dawn, Summer, and all those lines go down to Pluto. I don't know. All right. That's what I'm coming up with, Yegbrook. 2:20 to 4:30. Something happened. Something tragic. Let me double check it one more time. Let's go to 2:20, and then I'm going to go because I think the phone's going to die and it will get stuck. $2:20. So we're at 1 degree. We're at 5 degrees here, guys. That's the sweet spot. 5 degrees. Pluto is at home. Aries is anger and rage, fighting. Summer is still, she's Venus now on this chart. Something goes on at 2:20 too. Something tragic happens. Venus is connected to Uranus, to her physical body. Aries is an open enemy, is like rage, and it's quick, and it's usually to the head, face, and neck. Uranus is the tragedy. A tragic event which could cause death. Does any arrows go to Pluto here? Neptune, drugs, and drowning, down to death. So, did you guys see that? I'm trying to show you here. It's hard to do it because I have fat fingers. But look. Libra rules all women, young and old. There is Libra rules Venus. Venus rules Libra. So that is Summer. She's either near water or she's at home because it rules family. She's with family. She's with family. Venus is connected to a tragic event that goes down to her body, where her physical body is harmed with Uranus, which is a tragic event. Then there's this other line to Venus here that goes to drugs, drowning, delusions, and lies. More than one person knows, or someone, there's more people involved. Everyday events is partying, or, yeah, doing drugs every day. There's something involved with either water, drugs, or drowning, or alcohol. So Venus goes to Neptune, and then it goes all the way down to Pluto, which is death. So we have little Summer connected to a tragic event, to her body, in Aquarius. She's either with family or friends near water. She's with family, either near water or she's at home, because Cancer rules home and family, okay? And mothers too. Summer, tragedy to her body. Tragic event to her body. Summer. Drugs, delusions, and lies, alcohol abuse, everyday events changing in this house. Pisces is near water. Neptune is water. Drugs are drowning near water. I mean, that could even go back to her with the dry drowning. And then it goes to Pluto. Do you see the line there, guys? Then that goes straight to Pluto. Candace, Pluto. The anger and the rage, or the killer, goes down to death too. Don, Pluto. I don't think Don started partying until later on that night, guys. I don't think Don was doing drugs this day. It's Candace. I mean, maybe later in the day he's doing something, but he's not connected to Neptune or the water. Is he? Oh, no, he is. Here he is. I'm sorry. There's the line. Yeah, no, he is. He's drinking and drugs. Sorry. It's wrong. Don goes to Pluto. Don goes to Neptune right here. There's his line. This red line right here is Don. Drugs, drinking, delusion and lies, or drowning. Summer, tragedy to her body in Aquarius. I mean, she's near fresh water. Drugs, death. And again, we got I think we have a yod going this way back to Candace too. Death, drugs and drowning, going to Pluto. Going to the moon, the mother. Oh, God, it's so confusing, guys. All right, I'm going to go. This is hard. This is extremely, extremely hard. But it's letting us know, even at 2:30, something's not right with Summer. She's connected to a tragedy at 2:30. So why did it take Candace from 2:30 to 6:30 to call 911? Even at 4:30, we're seeing a tragedy connected to Summer. So why did it take Candace so long to call 911? That's all I really want to know, is why did it take her so long to realize that something was wrong with Summer? Because you think they hit her? It's very possible. All right, guys, I'm going to go. All right, so as far as the astrology is concerned, between 2:20 and 4:30, Summer's connected to a tragedy. That's as much as I can really break down. All right? All right, I love you guys. I'll be on more, and I will go over my astrology chart with you guys one day. I'm just going to have to reveal a lot about myself. And it's hard, you know, because we're not perfect. We're not a perfect family. We have problems just like everyone else, but ours is a little bit, it's really complicated because we have, my husband has brain issues. So, I mean, he's so much better now. We're so much better, and he's sober. So, but I mean, it's been hell. But we're here, and you know, maybe because I'm a victim too, I want to help other victims, and that's why I wanted to do this. And I always wanted to check on astrology for my children in case anything ever happened to them. So, and actually when my daughter's asthma was really bad, that's how I figured out about her asthma, because I found it on her astrology chart. I actually went to an astrologer, and they gave me my daughter's chart and told me she was going to have asthma. She does. She has horrible asthma. And it's Mercury. Mercury in the 8th house. Mercury in the 8th house can tell you that you're going to die from breathing problems. And my daughter was touch and go. She had pneumonia a lot. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we could get Summer's actual time of birth and the city and state that she was born in, I could check the 8th house and tell you how Summer's going to die. We could figure it out. But I need to know the city that she's born in. All right. I love you guys. Try to work on that for me, guys. Try to find out exactly what time she was born and the city and state that she was born in. Okay? Let's do that as a homework assignment. Let's try to get her actual birth certificate and see if we can find out the time she was born and the city and state that she was born in. I need more than just her date of birth. I need the time that she was born and the city and state that she was born in. And we can figure out how the stars say she's going to take her last breath. Okay? All right. I love you all. I feel all weird because I exposed so much about myself today. But I need to tell you guys a lot about me. Because I know, like, you know, who am I? Like, why do I do this? Why am I on YouTube talking about little Summer Wells? Well, you know, because I can relate to her, I guess. You know, I can relate to her story. And I love children. I really do. And she looks like my daughter when my daughter was 5. My daughter had those big blue eyes. I mean, I love Summer very much. Summer Wells is a beautiful little angel. But my daughter was gorgeous at 5. But she had those big blue eyes. And she had that white hair. My kids were both towheads when they were born. Like, they had white hair. It was like blondish white. And when I see pictures of Summer, I'm automatically brought back to when my daughter was 5. And those are fond memories to me because we bonded, and I just remember all the snuggle time and